Hi guys, welcome to today's tutorial. The purpose of today's tutorial is to show you how to implement a social authentication in your Django application. This is how the finished product looks. And for us to do this, we are going to be using the Django Allauth library, which is a very good library that handles a lot and can capture different things in an authentication. I'm choosing this library because I believe this is one of the best libraries available for you to do your Django authentication system, for you to use to implement authentication system if you want to implement something powerful and also more complex. And that's the purpose why I'm using Django Allauth for that. And yeah, so without wasting time, let's begin the tutorial in full. This is the Django Allauth website, which is the library we're going to use, and I have decided to make this video as simple and as short as possible, and because of that I'm going to be showing you guys how to do this in a very simple way without wasting your time. So let's begin. The first thing we're going to do is to install the Django Allauth in our application. I have already set up a Django application which I will show you guys shortly. But before we continue, you can go ahead to read more about the documentation of Django Allauth. I'm going to add the link of this particular website so you can take your time, read the documentation. I like to emphasize on documentation because it's always important for you to read documentations, because that's the best way for you to understand any library or even any framework you're working with. So if you want to read the documentation, you can pick up the link inside the description of this video so you can look at it and also capture and learn more complex things that I'm not going to capture in this video. Now, with that being understood, let's start implementing. Now let me copy this, pip install Django Allauth. Now let's go to our project. This is the project I have already set up. I call this socialauth. Now let me quickly open our terminal. In our terminal here, let me clear this. Now let's do, the virtual environment has been activated, so let's go ahead to install this library. We copied, pip install Django Allauth. This is because there's no network. Let's try to find out why there's no network. Let me on my Wi-Fi. Okay, now let's try again. Let me clear this, paste it again. Now let's try. Okay, so while the installation is going on, let's go back here and look at the next thing we have to do. Now, assuming you have a Django project, which we have, add the following to the settings.py of your project. Now, in our templates, we already have most of all these things there. So what we need is to add the Allauth template context processor, which we don't currently have, because that's what we're going to be using. So instead of copying this whole instead of copying this whole template information here, I prefer to just copy the Django.template.context processor. So let's go back here, open our settings.py file. Okay, let me close this since we have done installing that. Inside here, this place where we have the context processor, we'll come down here and paste this. Okay, now let's go back and see the next thing we're gonna do. The next thing we have to do is to add the authentication backend. This is the backend that's going to help us to be able to log in using either username or email. Now let's go back, just come below here, paste it somewhere here. Okay, so let's remove this. I don't need this because what we are using is just the Django Allauth. We don't need that. If we were still using the default Django Allauth system, yeah, but we don't need it. So let's go back. What is the next thing? Now inside our installed apps, we'll add Allauth, the Allauth account, and also Allauth the social account. So let me go ahead, copy this one, and let's go up where we have our installed apps. We'll paste this one here. Let me bring this one back. Okay, now after adding this, I think, let me see if there's any other thing we need to add before we'll come back to this when we start setting up the social providers that we want to work with. Okay, let me add middleware too. These other middlewares there. Let's go here under below, we'll paste this, save. Let's see if there's any other thing we need to add before we continue. Okay, let's go to our urls.py. Inside the URLs, we'll register the other URLs. So open this, go to our urls.py, below the admin, I'm going to paste this. Okay, bring this one back, and here we'll add include. Let's save. Now with this setup, I think we can try to migrate. We will come back to adding the social account providers and also adding the providers in the installed apps when we are ready to start setting up for the social providers that we will capture in this tutorial. So let me run migration so that our database will be set up. Let's clear this. Okay, now paste this. Let's migrate. Okay, now that our migration is done, the next thing we're going to do is go back and we can try to run our server, which is working. But what I'm going to do is inside our allowed host, I'm going to change it to be using localhost 8000 instead of the normal 127 way of doing it, so that when we are setting up our Google account, we'll be able to capture that. So inside here, I'm going to add localhost, save it. Let's open our terminal. Let me try to run our server so that we can try to see if our server is working. Okay, now let me come back to this our app, open it this way, http 8000. Okay, our server is working, but because we have not registered any template in it, that's why we cannot see anything. But we shall come back to this when we are ready to start setting up the template. We'll capture that. Okay, so you can see from here it's showing us admin accounts, but I have not registered the template. That's why we cannot see anything. Now let's continue to set up our social account, and for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to set up for Google, set up for Facebook, GitHub. So what we're going to do next is to now start setting up. And to set up for social providers, let's copy the social providers we want to set up. Then we'll start with Google. So I'm going to copy this one, which is the first one we're going to start with, so we can set that up. Now let me paste it inside our installed apps. I'm gonna come down here, paste this one for Google. Now with this setup, let's go back here and see how we can set up for social accounts. So let's go to social account. It's going to show us how to do the provider configuration. If you come to provider configuration, then it's how to set it up. Now if we want to do it based on how looking at the social providers, we can come back and look at the providers here. You see, let's select for Google. Let's go to Google here. Okay, for Google, this is how to set it up. Now we'll have to go to developers.google.com, and for us to have the app registration, we have to go to console.developers.google.com. Now let's go to console.developers.google.com to see how we can set up for the auth. First thing we're going to do is to set up our application, and to set up one, we click on here. We will create a new project. Now this project, I'm going to call it the Django Social Auth. Okay, we can just leave the no organization. Now our project has been created. We go to the auth screen, console screen, open this here. Okay, now that this is opened, what we're going to do is to, okay, I did not enable, this is the project, I'm enabling the wrong project. So this is the new project we just created. Now we are already currently in the auth consent screen. This is the place we are going to create the auth consent screen that will enable us to be able to sign up with our Gmail in this application. Now you select the external. Your app will only, this is available to any test user with a Google account. So you create the external. When you click on the external, it will ask you for your app name. So we'll still maintain the Django Social Auth. Okay, so I'm going to use the email I'm using to create this account. You can decide to upload the app logo, but in our case, we don't have that. So this is strictly for testing. Now it's asking for the homepage of our website. This is our homepage. Let's copy this. You copy it, come here, you paste it. Okay, now it's asking us to provide the privacy link. So I'm going to paste this. We're just going to create a mockup since we don't have that yet. Then for this one, I'm also going to create a mockup for the service. Just add the service here. All right. Okay, now it's asking for the developer information. I'm going to still maintain the name of the email address. You can change this to use your developer contact as the developer of the website you're working on. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Now we are in scope. The scope expresses the permissions you request users to authorize for your app and allow your project to access specific type of private user data. Now the first thing we're going to do is to add our scope you can see this is the whole way Google has set it up. We can decide to manually change this or add ours, but for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to be adding or touching anything here. So let's move to the next stage, which is the test user. This is the place we are going to add test users. To add test users, I'm just going to still maintain the email address we are using, so we can use it. These test users are the people that will be allowed to access the test project of what we are doing. So when we are testing the project, you can add as many. I think you can add up to 100. So I'm just adding roughly maybe 3 emails. Let me still add. Okay, let me just add one more. I think that's all for now. All right, add. Let's save. Okay, everything looks good. Now let's have, this is the summary. Let's go back to the dashboard. Now with this setup, what's the next thing we're going to do? The next thing we are going to do is to go to credentials. We'll click on create credentials. Now we are not setting up for the API keys. What we are actually doing is just for the auth system. So we click on the auth client ID here, which will enable us to have access. Now inside this, please, let's allow it to open. Let's select our application type, this web application that we are working on. The website client, you can leave it this name or you can call it the Django Social Auth. Now let's add our authorized JavaScript origins for the URL. So here we're going to paste our home. Now for the authorized redirect URLs, so let me quickly open up for the Allauth again, Django Allauth Google, so we can look at the callback. Okay, so this is our callback. Since we are making use of the Allauth system, let's copy this. Let's remove that. We don't need it. For the redirects, we add this, but here I'm going to change this to be local host, because that's the way we are handling our URL. Okay, now with this setup, let's go ahead and create it so that it will give us our secret key and also the client ID. All right, so now with this setup, we have our client ID and also our client secret. Now let me copy this, the client ID. Let's go back here. I'm gonna just put it somewhere below here. I'm just gonna keep it here till we take it to the place I'm gonna keep it. Now let's go back, copy the client secret. Okay, all right, we can also download it in JSON format. I think that's all I need here. Now with this setup, I can actually close this, and yeah, we'll come back to using it for the other ones, but let me open this because I'm still going to come back to the Allauth documentation so we can look at how to set up for the other providers. But let me close the one we did for the Google here. Now with this setup we are having here, what I'm going to do is, let's open this and see the next thing. When we are done with the registration, how are we going to do the configuration inside our application? The app credentials are configured for your Django installation via the admin interface. Create a new social app through admin/social account/social app. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to go to my app. Let me open this again. Now let's try to create a super user. Manage.py, create super user. Okay, I'm just going to maintain Joe as the username. Okay, g.com. Yeah, just go ahead and create it. All right, so let me delete this, run our server again. Let's go home, come here, let's open our admin. Okay, now our password is G. Okay, so you see we have the social accounts, we have the social applications, we also have the users. The only user we have right now is the super user, which I created. Now this is the social accounts. When we have a user from social accounts, we are going to have them inside our social applications here. So if you go to the social account, if you want to add one, to ask you to add the user, provider, UID, all those blah 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 stuff. Now let's go to the social applications. Under the social application, this is where we are going to register our providers. Like if you were following me when I was reading the app credentials, you remember I said you go to the admin/social account/social app. Now you see that is where we are, a social account/social app. Now, which provider are we going to use? First of all, we have to register this provider because the provider is meant to show in our installed apps, but it's not showing because I'm not meant to add this. So let me go back and see what we are having that is making it not to show, because I have already registered it in our installed app. Okay, let's go back to our documentation and see something. Optionally, you can specify the scope to use as follows. What we have to do is to now add the social account providers. So I'm going to copy this. let's add this. But for our token, we're going to add it inside our admin. So what I'm going to do, let me paste this here. Now save it. Let's go back here. Let's refresh this and see. Okay, now we have provider Google. See, now for the provider ID, we can leave that. Let's come to the name and put the Google. For the client ID, let's go back here. We have that. This is our client ID. So let me cut this off. Come to our admin, paste this. Let's go back and also grab the secret. Cut it off. Okay, paste the secret. Now for the key, we don't need to specify. Even for the settings, we don't need to specify. Now let's save. Okay, so we have gone ahead to add the Google. Now let's go back to the first thing I'm going to do for us to try to use the template. I have already set up a template that we are going to use for us to, since we are not creating any app, for us to be able to capture this template that is inside the root directory of our project. I have to specify it here in the directory of the template. And to specify that, what I'm going to do is base directory, then /templates. So we are asking our templates to go to our base directly, and grab the templates we have inside our root folder here, which is this template, instead of trying to look for templates in the installed apps. And considering that the installed app we are making use of is the one that we are calling directly from the library we installed, so that's why I'm asking you to do this for me. Now with this setup, I'm also going to try to set up, because I have some static files. Now to be able to set up for the static file, as usual, I'm going to set the static URL here, and I'm going to cross there. Okay, now next what I'm going to do is to set up the static files URL, directory, and I'm going to set this to be base directory. So what I'm doing is to set up the base directory. I'm trying to grasp the static folder that I'm going to set up inside our project root, and because we are not setting up any app especially for that, and that is based on the fact that we are just using a library to set up our authentication system. Now, with that being understood, if you come to our root folder here, where I have these our templates here, this root folder, I'm going to create another file. So I'm going to call it to be static. Now inside the static, I'm going to create another folder to call it images. This is the place that's going to house our images for the social providers that I'm going to set up for this tutorial. So I'm going to copy this part, go to here. Let's open this, and I have already copied the part. Let's paste it so we can have it. Now with this setup, what I'm going to do is come here where I have the pictures. I'm going to copy it, and let's paste it here. Okay, now with this setup, we now have our static and we also have our templates. Now what I'm going to do next is that inside our settings.py, we're going to save it, and before we try to run and see if our home is working now, let me also look at the settings and see if there's anything I'm omitting that is important for me to add before we continue. Okay, we have added everything we need to add here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go to the URLs. Inside our URLs.py, I have to add the part that's going to get this our templates that we have here. You see, we have some information, the templates, we have different files, the base and everything. So I'm going to specify that here. So the first thing I'm going to specify for our part inside the URLs is to add one for the home. So let me duplicate this now for here. What I'm going to do is okay, you know what, let's cut it off. Let me paste it here so it will be above the one for the accounts. So remove that. So what I'm going to do, we don't need this. Okay, so I'm going to put template view dot as view. Now inside here, I'm going to add template underscore name, then equals to dashboard / home.html. Then gonna call this to be. Now we have to import from django.views.generic import template view. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to set up is also the one that's going to get our login. I'm going to set this one to be login here, login. Now this one is going to go change it to be account /login login.html, then also change the name to be login. Okay, now with this setup, let me save this. Let's go to our settings.py file. Let's go below so I can add the login URL and also do same for sign up URL. Okay, so what I'm going to do is below here. Okay, so here I'm going to add the login redirect URL. I'm going to specify that to be home. Let me also add for the account redirect URL, should be logout. Then I'm going to specify it to be the account, and let's go login. Now with this setup, let's save. Let's try to go to our home because I want us to test run. Let me log out. Okay, let's go home and see. Okay, we have not seen our, what is he saying here? Template does not exist. Okay, so why is it not existing? Because let's see if there's anything I'm missing wrong here. Okay, so why is it not seeing our template? Template is here. The challenge is because of the way I kept the template. This template is meant to be on its own, so let me move it out from there. Let's refresh this now. Okay, so this is our home. Now let's go to login and see. This is our login. Now it's asking us to log in with Google because we have set that up. Now let's try to log in with Google. Sign in via Google. You're about to sign in using third-party account from Google. So let's continue and see what it's going to bring up for us. Okay, so it's asking us to choose an account to continue to Django socialauth. Now let's select this. Successfully signed in as Apollonia. Now we've been able to sign in using this particular account. Hello Apollonia, your username is Apollonia. Okay, all right, so let's refresh this so we can have home. Let's sign out. The next one we're now going to do, we have done for the Google. Let's go and do for, let's do for which account? Let's do for GitHub. Let's go to GitHub. Let's look for GitHub here so we can try to set up the one for GitHub. So to do the same for GitHub, we have to, let's copy this. It's asking me to sign in to GitHub, but what I'm going to do is to look at the settings. So if you go to GitHub, you go to settings, then under settings you go to applications, then /new. So let me open my GitHub from here. Let's open it from here. Let's go to settings. Yep. Now under settings we go to applications. What we're going to do now is under this place where you have to create an account. So let me go back here. What I'm going to do is copy this link. Let's copy the link, and I want to open it here, which is where I have my GitHub authenticated. So it will just open a new one for us. So this is it, application/new. Now the application we are trying to register is the Django socialauth, and our home URL is this. Now we don't need to add description. Now for the callback we can put this. Let's put this or this. Okay, but let me see. Let's go back and see the way he's asking us to do it here. So this is the right one. account/github/login/callback. account/github/login. Okay, /callback. All right, now let's register. Now this is our client ID. Once I'm done with this tutorial, I'm going to disable it, but I'm just showing you guys how you can do it yourself. All right, so don't expect this to work. You have to do it your own. Do your own for it to work. Now this is the client ID. Now this is the client secret. Now to get our client secret, to click on this, so it will bring it up. It will ask me now to authenticate myself. I put in my password and it will bring out the secret for me. So let me copy the secret, copy it. Let's go back here. The same way we pasted it under. Let's come here, paste it. Gonna use it shortly. Let's come back and also copy the ID, client ID. Okay, so yeah, let me close this and also close this here. So put this here. Now let's go back here. What I'm gonna do is sign out the account we just logged in. Let's go to admin. Then you also see that this account that I logged in with right now has been added. So inside our admin, let's log in. Okay, now we have social accounts. We have one, you see. Now let me try to see the information we were able to get. So Google allowed us to get the UID. These are the information, everything. Now this is the whole extra data. You can customize this yourself if you want to get the picture, everything. you can be able to customize it, pulling up this JSON file that we have access to. All these things are the information, the data that we got from Google. We can customize our application, this particular model we are seeing here, to be able to capture every information we are getting from here. Now, with this being understood, let's go back to the social applications. Before we continue, let's come here. Let's copy this for the GitHub. Copy this. Okay, we have already set up the social account providers. Let me just copy the key only. Go back. I'm going to put comma here, then paste the one for GitHub. Then under our installed apps, I'm going to duplicate the one for Google, then change this to be GitHub. Save. Now let's go back to here, so that when we click here, we'll be able to see either GitHub or Google. Now let's go back to our settings. Let's cut off the client ID. Come back here. Let's call it GitHub. Now the client ID, paste this one. Go back. Also cut off the secret. Let's paste the secret here. Okay. Now let's save. Now with this setup, let me log out. Let's go home. Okay. Hello, welcome. Let's click on login. We now have the sign in with GitHub. Continue to ask me to sign into GitHub to continue to Django Allauth. Now you can put in your GitHub information. Let's try to log in with my GitHub here and see. Now let's see, sign in. Okay, so let me quickly authenticate myself so that I'll be able to sign in. Let me do it so you guys can see that it's working. Okay, so Django Allauth by Obina wants to access your Joshi Vibe account, blah 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 blah. Authorize. Okay, we'll be redirected back to our home. Successfully signed in as Joshi Vibe. Alright, so I have also set up the one for GitHub. The next one we are now going to do is to set up the one for Facebook. And let's also locate Facebook here. Is also the process is the same. You have to go to the platform, register, and set up to be able to use their auth. I think with the way I've done this tutorial, you should not have any issue doing this yourself. I have already set up the template. Remember the whole tutorial is going to be available on my GitHub, so you can use it and implement yours. Now let's copy this key, go back here and put comma. Okay. Now the next thing we're gonna do is for Facebook, both OAuth 2 and Facebook Connect JavaScript SDK are supported. Okay, so to set up the whole blah 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 stuff the way they are explaining it here, I was expecting them to also add a link for Facebook here. Let's see. Okay. All right. Now a key and secret key can be obtained by creating an app. So let me quickly copy this link and so you guys can see, because I already have previous apps that I've set up here. So when you go to developer.facebook.com and you have your account set up and everything set up, you'll be able to come to this place where I am inside the developers.facebook.com/apps. Now you can create an app. This is where you will now set up the app you want to allow to authenticate. What do you want your app to do? These are the most common use cases. Okay. What we want to do is to authenticate and request data from users with Facebook login. We are not launching a game. That one is a different ball game entirely. I'm not building a game. Next, add an app name. So I'm going to call it Django Social App. Maybe I can just make this to be capital later for the D. Okay. I do not need to specify the business account. Is not necessary. Let's create an app to ask me to put my password for my Facebook, which I will do. Submit. Oops, I entered the wrong password. Let me quickly confirm my Facebook password. Okay, let's try again. Alright, so now that we have created our app, the next thing we are going to do is to go to the app settings. Under the app settings, we'll go to basic. Okay, so this is where we have our app ID, which is the client ID, and also the app secret. So as usual, let me copy the ID first. Let me just paste it somewhere here. This is the ID here. Then let me also copy the secret. Okay, now under our installed apps, let me also add Facebook. Add Facebook. duplicate this. Let's change this to be Facebook. I think I have I added the key? Yeah, I've added the key for that. Save. Now I think this setup, we are good to go. I'm also going to delete this particular information immediately I'm done with this tutorial. Okay, now let's come back here and open our home. Let's sign out so we can go to the admin, log in again. Let's go to the social application. Let's add one more for the Facebook. Go back here, cut off the ID, paste it here, call the name to be Facebook. Then let me also cut off the one for the secret. Let's put 5, then paste the remaining. Okay, let's save. Now log out, go back to the home. Now let's try to log in again. You see we have the Facebook. Continue. Okay, so I think something is wrong when I was setting this up. Let me go back. We are not done with the setup for the Facebook. So under here I need to add the app domain. I missed adding the app domain, so let's add localhost here. I was rushing now, so let's go back and see what we need to add. Okay, so there's no redirect needed for this. Now that I've added the domain, I'm going to save it. Okay, so let's go back home again, refresh this our login. Let's try to sign into Facebook. Continue. Okay, you know what, let's add it this way, not just put in localhost there. So here, let's paste this, add it this way as a normal way of adding domain. You can put in all the information here, but you can even add picture, but I don't really think that's necessary to add any image here now. You can add any picture you want, but we are not adding that. Let's save. Saved. So we now have this added as our domain. Okay, let's refresh this again, log in. You see we are now able to log into Facebook. So when you put in your Facebook information here, you'll be able to log in. Let me try to log into my Facebook. Log in. Your account has two-factor authentication switched on. We require this extra login step. Okay, so they're gonna send me some code. Is that code I'm gonna put in here so that I'm not gonna save the browser. So let's just continue. We are having an error. Go back. Let's go home and see if we're able to log in. So the login did not work. Something is definitely wrong, but it's not based on the implementation, as the implementation is right. So yeah, let's see. We have the GitHub and the Google register, but we have not been able to authenticate for. So what I'm going to do, let's come here. Let's try to do it from here. Log in. Let's click on Facebook. Continue. Something went wrong. We are working on getting this fixed as soon as we can. Okay, so that means this has to do with Facebook. This is a Facebook problem. So yeah, we have done everything we need to do to get it work, but I think it's a Facebook problem. Something might be wrong. All right, so yeah, that is how to set up your authentication to use social account to be able to log into an application. We have done the one for sign for Google, GitHub, and also Facebook. You can implement other platforms like like Twitter. There are a whole lot of them here that you can implement, even Line, LinkedIn. Yeah, you can even implement LinkedIn, PayPal, Snapchat too. Wow, different platforms that you can add. And if you follow the same process, go to the Django Allauth docs.org.organization. You can look at the documentation for a guide and then follow the prompts and process that's provided to set up other social platforms. Let's look at Instagram. I'm sure it's also pretty the process. And considering the reason why we are setting up the client ID and also the client secret inside our admin, I think is for security purpose is the best approach for handling such information, so that it will prevent you from attacks and save you unnecessary security breaches. Now with this being understood, we have come to the end of the tutorial. If you have any questions, you can ask me. I will provide a guide, and always I'm here to show you and also provide you guides and tutorials on how to implement authentication and different things using Django. We have come to the end of the video. If the video was helpful and you enjoyed the process, please drop your comments in the comment section, and also please guys, subscribe. Please, it's important you guys subscribe, please, I'm begging you. In the absence of no other thing, we have come to the end of the video, and I will see you soon in the next video. I remain your humble servant, Joshi Vibe. Please guys, subscribe, please, it's important. Thank you.